The first attack came without warning. Across Earth, hospitals, clinics, and emergency centers fell under brutal assault. Precision orbital strikes and infiltration units targeted doctors, nurses, paramedics, anyone trained in the art of healing. The aliens, later identified as the Varkari, believed humanity's strength lay not in its soldiers, but in those who mended the wounded. By striking our healers first, they thought they could cripple us before a war even began. They had no idea what they had just unleashed. At first, humanity reeled. Cities burned, hospitals were turned into smoldering ruins, and countless lives were lost. But then something changed. The world did not cower or surrender. Instead, we mourned for a single day. Just one. Then we rose as one people, one force. The Council of Nations passed a single unanimous directive: deploy the Death Angels. They were not soldiers, not in the conventional sense. The Death Angels were something far worse. Elite specialists, hidden away until now, trained for the kind of warfare no alien race had ever encountered. Silent as the grave, merciless as the void, they moved in the shadows, their very existence a whispered nightmare in black-budget programs. Within a week, Varkari ships stopped responding. Within 2, their planetary command posts fell silent. By the 3rd, the Varkari fleet was in full retreat. The Death Angels were relentless. They did not conquer. They did not negotiate. They erased. Every Varkari officer responsible for the attacks on our healers vanished. Their generals were found floating in the void, throats slit, frozen in terror. Their warships were discovered adrift, entire crews missing, not a single body left behind. The Varkari, once a proud warrior race, fell to madness and horror, their morale shattered by an enemy they never saw coming. By the time the Death Angels reached the Varkari homeworld, there was no resistance left. A single message was sent to their ruling council: "You attacked our healers, now we send death." The Varkari surrendered unconditionally, not out of honor, not out of diplomacy, but out of sheer unbridled fear. The price for their mistake was paid in silence, in shadows, in the eternal void of space. Earth's healers were avenged, and the galaxy learned a lesson it would never forget. If you strike at those who save lives, we will send those who take them. But the war was far from over. Intelligence gathered from the captured Varkari revealed a darker truth. They had not acted alone. They were merely tools, weapons sent forth by an ancient enemy who had long considered humanity an offense. The so-called God Ones, beings who had once demanded submission from our ancestors, had orchestrated the attack to weaken humanity before their arrival. Earth did not waste time. Humanity's greatest minds were gathered. Secret weapons were designed in the shadows, and hidden research facilities were constructed under layers of deception. False government projects, front buildings, and misleading information fed to the spies who lurked in the shadows made sure that any attempt to uncover the true weapons would lead them into carefully laid traps. When the God One's spies tried to sabotage our efforts, they were met with brutal efficiency. Every single one was identified, captured, and executed in a public display for all of humanity to see. It was a message not just to the traitors, but to the gods themselves. We bow to no gods or masters. The universe watched, some in awe, others in horror, as Earth made its defiance known. The God Ones took notice, and though they had dismissed humanity before, now they were slightly concerned. These so-called God-killer weapons were unknown variables, and variables had a way of disrupting even the most carefully laid plans. The God Ones began their own preparations. Vast war fleets were mobilized, weapons forged in the hearts of dying stars readied for war. They sent more spies, not to sabotage, but to assess the true threat humanity posed. But Earth was ready. The first sign of their coming was not a declaration of war. It was silence. Far beyond Earth's reach, hidden from prying eyes, an armada unlike any seen before arrived in the Sol system. Cloaked from human sensors, the God Ones positioned themselves in Mars' orbit, watching, waiting, preparing. They had no intention of letting humanity come to them. They would bring the war to Earth itself. Yet humanity was not blind. While Mars appeared abandoned, humanity had seeded its red neighbor with hidden outposts long ago. Designed to appear as relics of failed colonization, these sites were in fact observation posts, monitoring deep space for any signs of enemy movement. And now those outposts whispered warnings back to Earth. The God Ones had arrived. The waiting game had begun, but Earth was ready to play. Days turned to weeks as the God Ones remained in orbit over Mars, hidden from standard human sensors. But Earth's intelligence networks had already exposed them, and the deception was mutual. Humanity allowed them to believe they were undetected, all the while preparing countermeasures. In underground bunkers deep beneath the surface of Earth and the Moon, experimental weapon platforms were being finalized. Energy-based weapons capable of shattering celestial bodies were assembled in secret, waiting for the moment of truth. Stealth fleets designed with anti-detection shielding drifted in the darkness of space, their crews awaiting the signal. Yet the God Ones were no fools. They had long ruled the stars, and their arrogance did not extend to underestimating an enemy that had already defied them once before. They deployed their own counterintelligence measures, probing Earth's defenses with cloaked scouts, attempting to ascertain where the real threats lay among the myriad of deception and false installations. Then came the first strike. A seemingly harmless meteor shower streaked toward Earth, unnoticed by most. But deep space tracking stations flagged it immediately. Several of the meteors were moving against known gravitational forces. Earth's defenses sprang into action. Orbital railguns fired, intercepting the projectiles, revealing them for what they truly were: kinetic bombardment weapons meant to devastate cities before the main attack. The God Ones had broken their silence. The response was immediate. From hidden launch sites on the far side of the Moon, humanity's retaliation came in the form of hunter-killer drones, autonomous strike craft programmed for one purpose: seek and destroy. They moved like ghosts through the void, slipping past enemy sensors and striking at the cloaked fleet over Mars. Explosions rippled across the darkness, revealing several enemy vessels as their cloaking failed under the sudden assault. The battle had begun, and for the first time in eons, the so-called gods felt something they had long since forgotten: fear. And as the battle kicked off with the intensity of an exploding neutron star, well, some might say the humans might have figured out how to harness this energy. Another group of aliens watched on, not interested in enslavement of lesser beings or posing as phasal gods, but instead they were keen to see the outcome, as they had been so bored, and this battle would at the least provide some entertainment.